It's 9:47 on a Saturday morning. You're standing in the kitchen of a house that was listed 6 days ago, and the place already has 4 offers. The ceilings are high, the floors are herringbone hardwood. There's a jacuzzi tub in the master bathroom that probably cost someone $15,000. And your agent leans in and whispers, "That tub is actually hurting the price." You look at her. The tub is spotless. It's enormous. It looks expensive, because it is. She shrugs. Buyers see a tub like that, and the first thing they calculate is how much it costs to rip it out. Here's the thing about property value. It doesn't care what you paid. It doesn't care what you loved. It doesn't care that the feature cost you $22,000 and took 3 weeks to install. Property value cares about one thing: what the next buyer will pay. And right now, that buyer is doing math you never did when you bought this stuff. My name is Elena, and I spend probably too much time thinking about why perfectly rational homeowners make financial decisions that quietly destroy the value of the most expensive asset they own. If you've ever spent real money upgrading your home and then felt confused when your appraisal came in lower than you expected, subscribe and hit the like button, because that exact question is what this video answers. Before we get into it, not a financial advisor, not a realtor. This is not professional advice. This is pattern recognition from a lot of bad decisions and a lot of data. Today, we're looking at 10 things homeowners are still spending money on in 2025. Things that feel like investments, things your contractor told you were upgrades, that are actively dragging down your property value. Some of these will surprise you. One of them is in nearly every house in America. Thing 1. Wall-to-wall carpeting. The trap disguises itself as comfort. You put carpet in the bedrooms because it's soft underfoot in the morning. It's quieter. It feels cozy. These are real benefits, and none of them show up on an appraisal. Here's what the National Association of Realtors found. Hardwood floors increase a home's perceived value by up to 10% over comparable homes with carpet. 10%. On a $450,000 home, that's $45,000 sitting underneath something that cost you $3,000 to install. Sit with that. The non-obvious trap here isn't that carpet looks bad. It's that carpet signals work. When a buyer walks in and sees wall-to-wall carpet in 2025, the first number that appears in their brain is not the purchase price. It's the demo cost, the subfloor inspection, the hardwood installation, the furniture moving, and the 3 weekends of disruption. They haven't even made an offer yet, and they're already exhausted. Carpet doesn't knock. It just moves in quietly and eats the first $20,000 of your negotiating leverage. The exit is not complicated. If you're within 3 years of selling, pull the carpet. In almost every market in the country, the hardwood installation pays for itself in appraised value and reduces the buyer's willingness to negotiate down. That's not a renovation. That's a repricing. Thing 2. Jetted jacuzzi tubs. The trap here is the exhale. You bought the jetted tub because at some point in your life you imagined a version of yourself who came home from work, poured a glass of wine, and sank into the jets. That version of you exists in exactly 2 weeks of the year. The other 50 weeks, the tub collects dust and mold in the jets, and you take a 6-minute shower like a normal person. The real estate data on this is brutal. According to a survey of appraisers conducted by the National Association of Home Builders, jetted tubs add nearly zero resale value in most markets. And in some markets, they actively subtract value. The reason is maintenance. Buyers who know what they're looking at understand that the jet system requires regular cleaning with specialized chemicals, that the plumbing connections age and leak, and that removal runs anywhere from $800 to $3,000 depending on how the tub was installed. So they offer less. Or they walk. A separate walk-in shower, frameless glass, dual heads, decent tile, adds value. A deep soaking tub with no jets adds value. A 1998 jetted tub shaped like a seashell subtracts value. You can choose not to play this game. But if you're still paying a plumber to service the jets, know what that's costing you in the transaction you haven't had yet. Thing 3. Highly personalized tile work. This one stings the most because it's also the most beautiful. Meet Diane. She's 44, she bought her house in 2018, and she spent $11,000 on a custom hand-painted tile backsplash in the kitchen. It runs floor-to-ceiling behind the range. It depicts a Moroccan marketplace. It took an artisan 6 weeks to design and install. It is genuinely stunning. Her neighbor, Kevin, spent $1,800 on a clean white subway tile. When both houses hit the market last spring, Kevin's kitchen appraised $8,000 higher than Diane's. Not because Diane's tile was low quality, because it was too specific. Buyers walked in and saw one thing, an $11,000 removal project they'd have to fund before they could make the kitchen their own. The research on this is consistent. Appraisers and buyer surveys repeatedly show that highly personalized design features, bold color tile, intricate mosaic patterns, dramatic statement floors, reduce the pool of viable buyers. And a smaller buyer pool means lower competitive pressure. And lower competitive pressure means a lower final price. Diane didn't make a bad design decision, she made a bad resale decision. Those are not the same thing, but it costs the same to get them wrong. The exit. If you're renovating, go timeless in the spaces buyers scrutinize most: kitchens and primary bathrooms. Go personal everywhere else. Here's where I need you to stay with me, because the next half of this list is where the math starts doing something genuinely strange. These aren't aesthetic preferences. These are features that actively signal financial liability to informed buyers. And informed buyers are the only buyers who can close quickly and at price. Thing 4, above-ground pools. The trap is the summer math. You bought the above-ground pool for $4,200 on a July afternoon when the kids were 11 and bored. It made 3 perfect summers possible. Nobody is arguing with that. But here's what happens in the transaction. The buyer walks into the backyard and sees not a pool. They see a trampoline-sized liability that takes 18 inches of usable yard, requires a permit in most municipalities, raises homeowners insurance premiums, and will cost $700 to $1,500 to remove and haul away. A CNBC analysis of real estate trends found that above-ground pools are among the top features that reduce the number of offers on a home. Not because buyers hate fun, because buyers with children under 12 read the safety liability statistics, and buyers without children do the square footage math. Here's the thing nobody tells you. In-ground pools in the right market add value. Above-ground pools in any market subtract it. The difference isn't the water, it's the permanent signal. Permanent says investment. Portable says afterthought. If you're within 18 months of selling, drain it, disassemble it, and reseed the grass. The yard will thank you. The appraisal will thank you more. Thing 5, sunrooms with inadequate insulation. The non-obvious trap. Not all square footage is equal. A sunroom feels like free space. You added it for $28,000. It shows up on the listing as an additional room. You expect it to add $28,000 in value or more. It doesn't. Here's the problem. Appraisers distinguish between conditioned space, space connected to the HVAC system and properly insulated, and unconditioned space. An under-insulated sunroom doesn't count as heated square footage in most appraisal methodologies. It gets a fraction of the value of a bedroom or proper living space. So you spent $28,000 and added what appraisers value at roughly $8,000 to $12,000. That gap, $16,000 to $20,000, disappears. Not because the room isn't nice, because it isn't warm enough to count. The exit. If you have a sunroom, the single highest ROI move is proper insulation and HVAC connection. It transforms unconditioned space into living space, and that reclassification alone can recover tens of thousands of dollars on an appraisal. Thing 6. Garage conversions. The villain here has a name: the permit gap. You converted your 2-car garage into a home gym, a game room, a studio apartment for your in-laws. You spent $18,000 doing it. The work is clean. The floor is epoxy. The lighting is good. And you did it without pulling a permit. Here's what happens next. The buyer's lender orders an appraisal. The appraiser checks the municipality's records. The garage is listed as a garage. The appraiser is required by law to flag the discrepancy. The lender flags it. The deal goes into a 3-0 Day hold while your attorney and their attorney argue about who is responsible for the unpermitted work. In some states, you're legally required to disclose unpermitted conversions. In others, a buyer can come back after closing and force you to restore the space to its original permitted use, at your expense. That's not a renovation. That's a lawsuit in drywall form. The real issue, even permitted garage conversions often hurt resale in suburban markets where buyers specifically want garage space. The American Housing Survey has consistently found that parking and storage rank in the top 3 features buyers prioritize. Converting that away, even legally, removes something buyers are paying for. Think carefully before you do it. And if you already did it without permits, talk to a real estate attorney before you list. Thing 7. Over-the-top landscaping. Here's where the shame removal lands. This is not your fault. Every landscaping company, every HGTV renovation special, and every Pinterest board told you curb appeal was everything. And they're not wrong. Curb appeal matters enormously. But there is a specific category of landscaping that crosses from curb appeal into maintenance burden, and buyers see it immediately. Koi ponds, elaborate water features, tiered stone gardens with intricate drainage, topiary that requires a professional to maintain. These aren't upgrades, they're inherited obligations. A Zillow study found that low-maintenance landscaping, native plants, simple lawn, clean beds consistently outperforms elaborate landscaping in time to sale and final price. Why? Because when a buyer sees a koi pond, they don't see beauty. They see algae. They see fish that need feeding when they travel. They see the winter cover, the spring treatment, the $600 annual maintenance they didn't sign up for. You can choose not to play this game. Simple, clean, and green beats complicated every single time in a real estate transaction. The rule: if your landscaping requires a maintenance agreement, it is hurting your resale more than it is helping it. Thing 8. Bold exterior paint colors. A study stopped me cold on this one. Researchers at Zillow analyzed hundreds of thousands of home sales and found that homes with front doors painted black sold for an average of $6,271 more than comparable homes. The color of a single door moved the needle by $6,000. Here's what they also found. Homes with exterior walls painted in unusual or highly saturated colors, bold yellows, deep purples, vivid greens, took 14% longer to sell and sold for measurably less than neutrally painted comparable homes. The psychology here is not complicated. The exterior of your home is the first thing a buyer sees on every listing photo. It takes a buyer 7 seconds to form their first impression of a home online. If that impression is, "I would have to repaint this before I could live here," the buyer mentally subtracts the cost of the paint job, $4,000 to $10,000 for a full exterior, before they've even clicked on the floor plan. Applied to your situation, if your exterior color is more than 2 standard deviations from the neighborhood average, your own internal test, it is likely costing you offers. The permission slip: you are allowed to paint your house white, or gray, or grage. It is not boring. It is $6,000 back in your pocket. Thing 9. Swimming pool accessories and enclosures meet Raymond. Raymond is 58. He's a retired contractor in Florida who built the best pool enclosure in his entire neighborhood. $34,000 worth of screened aluminum framing, custom pavers, a built-in outdoor kitchen, and a waterfall feature on the back wall. Raymond's neighbor, Carol, has a basic pool with a standard fence and a concrete deck. She spent $6,000 total. When Raymond listed last year, he expected the pool setup to be a major selling point. His agent broke the news gently. The enclosure was reducing his buyer pool. Why? Because the enclosure required an HOA variance that the previous owner had obtained. But that variance didn't automatically transfer to a new owner in that municipality. 3 buyers walked when their attorneys flagged it. Carol closed in 19 days. Raymond sat on the market for 112 days and reduced his price by $22,000. This is the version nobody shows you on Instagram. The elaborate pool setup Raymond built with his own hands, the one he was genuinely proud of, became the most expensive thing he'd ever given away to a stranger. The lesson isn't that Raymond made a bad choice for his lifestyle. The lesson is that lifestyle spending and investment spending are two different accounts, and confusing them is the most common financial mistake homeowners make. Thing 10. Home offices built over bedrooms. This is the one in nearly every house in America right now. Between 2020 and 2023, an estimated 30 million Americans turned a bedroom into a dedicated home office. Built-in bookshelves, recessed lighting, cable management, the works. Most spent between $8,000 and $25,000. Here's what they didn't calculate. The bedroom they converted was worth, in most markets, 15% to 18% of the home's total value. A 3-bedroom house and a 2-bedroom house with an office are not the same thing. Buyers know this, lenders know this, appraisers know this. A study by the National Association of Realtors found that each additional bedroom adds a statistically significant premium to a home's selling price, and removing one by conversion subtracts that same premium, regardless of how nice the office is. Let me say that again. The bedroom classification matters more to your property value than the quality of what's in the room. The trap disguises itself as productivity. You made the office because you work from home. The office is genuinely useful. But the buyer who needs 3 bedrooms, for kids, for guests, for family, cannot use your office. And they will not pay 3-bedroom prices for a 2-bedroom house with really nice built-ins. The exit. Before you list, price the cost of converting the office back to a bedroom. In most cases, removing the built-ins and restoring the closet is a few $1,000s. The bedroom classification it restores could be worth $30,000 to $60,000 in a competitive market. That math is not close. Here's what every item on this list has in common. None of them were stupid decisions at the time you made them. The carpet was comfortable. The tub was indulgent in the good way. The office was necessary. The pool was the center of 10 summers your kids will remember. The financial mistake wasn't spending the money. The financial mistake was spending the money and counting it as investment when it was lifestyle. The gap between what homeowners think they've built and what the market will actually pay, that gap didn't open at the closing table. It opened in 100 small decisions across 15 years, each one reasonable in isolation, invisible in aggregate. There is no trophy for the most expensive house on the block that the market won't validate. The only scoreboard that matters when you sell is the one the appraiser writes down. And appraisers don't care about your memories. They care about bedrooms, square footage, condition, and comps. The boring choice, neutral paint, hardwood floors, a real bedroom, a clean yard, isn't the consolation prize. It is the strategy. This is the version that works. If this video reframes something for you, drop the feature in the comments that surprised you most. The jacuzzi tub comment section is always a ride. Subscribe if you want more of this. I'll see you in the next one.